Okay, so for this video, we're going to be talking about how to solve a system of linear equations by substitution. Um, Typically, this is not the favorite method, but it is required for some of our coming test questions. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go over this. There are three major steps. Step number one is to solve for a single variable, so that's x or y. Step number two is to substitute and solve. So this is the part where we do most of our work. And step number three is to find the other value and write the solution. So if we found x, then we're going to find y and vice versa. Okay, so the best way to show these is, of course, through example. We're going to go ahead and do the first example. Y equals 3x and x plus y equals 8. Okay, so for this one, we already have that y is equal to 3x. So typically, sorry about that, we can already substitute. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show this one a little bit different for those of you who want to do it differently. I'm going to substitute this one by solving for y first. So I can say that x plus y equals 8 can be rewritten. So if I move this x, let me use a different color. If I move this x to the other side, okay, I will end up with y equals negative x, because remember, whenever you cross it over the equal sign, it changes sign, and then plus 8, because that's positive 8. Okay, so now that this is in y equals and this is in y equals, I can actually substitute this entire thing right here, negative x plus 8, into the y value, because y equals this. So this is going to get substituted right here. Okay, so here's what it looks like. Instead of y, I'm going to write all this. Negative x plus 8 is equal to 3x. And again, the reason I can do this is because this y is the same as this y. So if this y is equal to all this, then I can plug it into here. Okay? And from here, I'm going to go ahead and solve for x. So this is just a simple algebraic problem. I'm going to get my x's all on the same side. So I'm going to do plus x right here, plus x right here. Remember, this is plus 1x. If you need to write the 1, go ahead. And that will get rid of this here for me. Bring down my 8. 3x plus 1x is 4x. Since I'm solving for x, I divide by 4 both sides. That'll become 1, so I can cross it out. And therefore, x is just going to be equal to 2. Now, of course, usually you write it the other way, but you can if you want. So x equals 2. Okay? And there is my first answer. So now that I have one of the answers, I can find the other solution. So we're on step number 3 at this point. So this was step number 1. This was step number 2. And step number 3 will be finding the other variable. So in this case, y. Well, for this part, we typically take one of our originals and we find it this way. So I'm going to take y equals 3x because that one looks easier. And I'm going to plug in this x into that equation. So when I do that, I will have y equals 3, and then inside the parentheses, I'm going to put that 2 because I want to know what y is equal to when x equals 2. So y equals 3 times 2 is 6. So that means that my solution for this particular system is at x equals 2 and y equals 6. That means that at this point, at the point 2, 6, both of my equations are equal to each other. They cross at that point, so they have one solution. And that's it for this particular example. Okay, I'm going to do 2 more examples, and then I will probably make a video that shows one that's a little bit more difficult. Okay, so for this second example, we're going to have 2x plus y is equal to 9, and x plus 4y is equal to 1. Okay. So in this one, notice that we don't have any kind of x equals or y equals. So we're going to have to solve for one. Okay, we're going to have to at least get one of them that is an x or y equals. So it's like the second level of difficulty. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and solve this one. So I'm going to take this y and kind of want to isolate it. So that means, I'm going to rewrite it, 2x plus y equals 9. That means that I'm going to try to get my y by itself. Okay, so in this case, I can take my 2x and move it over, which leaves us with y equals negative 2x. Remember, when we move it, it becomes opposite sign, plus 9. Okay, so there's again step number 1. Now that I have y equals, I can take this entire thing and plug it into, well, the y, because y is equal to all this, therefore I can put it where the y goes. So here's what it's going to look like. So now we're on step number 2, which is substitute and solve. So I'm going to take this equation, x plus 4, and plug my entire equation in there. So parentheses negative 2x plus 9. Now don't get confused. Don't actually put y equals. Remember, y equals is equal to all this right here. So this is the part that I'm plugging in, okay? And then equal to 1. So I have this entire thing right here, but instead of my y, I'm putting in the expression that it's equal to, okay? From here, we just solve. So this does have a little bit of steps because we have that parenthesis, so we're going to have to distribute. So I bring down my x plus 4 times negative 2 is negative 8x. And I'm putting it in parentheses only because there's a plus here. 4 times positive 9 is positive 36, equal to 1. So now that I have this, I'm going to combine x plus negative 8x. These two right here, these are similar terms. So they can combine, which gives us negative 7x. Bring down that 36, equal to 1. I have to get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 36 from both sides. And that'll leave me with negative 7x is equal to negative 35. Okay. So my final step here will be to divide by negative 7 because I want that x by itself. And that will give me x is equal to negative 35 divided by negative 7 is positive 5. So x equals 5 in this case. Okay. We're finally on step number 3, which I'm going to do, I guess I can do it here. Step number 3 is to find the other variable. So since we found x, I need to find y. So when we find the other one, we have to use again one of the original equations. I'm going to use the first one just because it has a 2, and 2 smaller than 4. It just seems easier to me. But you can use whichever one you want. Okay, so I'm going to take the first one, this 2x plus y equals 9, and I'm going to plug in my x right there. So 2 parentheses 5 plus y is equal to 9. And I simplify this, so 2 times 5 is 10 plus y equals 9. I'm trying to solve for y, so I'm going to move my 10, so minus 10 minus 10. And so y is equal to 9 minus 10 is negative 1. So y is equal to negative 1. So that means that my solution for this one, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. My solution for this particular system is at x equals 5 and y equals negative 1. So a simpler way of writing it would just be 5, comma, negative 1. And again, remember that this represents the point where my two lines intersect. So this is where they share the same point. This is the solution to their system. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and do one more example. And then I will get to the more difficult ones in a separate video. Okay, so for this last example, we're going to use different letters just for the sake of something different. We'll say 2a minus b is equal to 1. 5a minus 3b is equal to 0. Okay. So again, my first step is to solve for a variable for one of them. So I'm going to solve this one. And the reason I'm going to solve this first one is because I see that b doesn't have a number in front, so I won't have to divide or anything crazy like that. So I'm going to solve this one. So 2a minus b equals 1. I'm going to move my b in this part because that just seems easier. I want the b by itself. So instead of moving my 2a and then dividing, this would just be easier to move the b. So I'm going to move my b. That means when it comes over, okay, I'll be left with 2a is equal to 1 plus b, because over here was negative, so when it comes over it's positive. And since I want the b by itself, I'm going to take my 1 and move that one to the other side. So minus 1, minus 1. This gets rid of this here. So now I have 2a minus 1 is equal to b. So this is my, again, step number 1, solving for one of the variables. Now that I solved for b, I can go ahead and take this entire expression, so this entire thing right here, and plug it into the other equation, so this one. So since b is equal to 2a minus 1, I can put that right in here. Okay, so for step number 2, I'm going to rewrite this 5a minus 3. Instead of b, I'm going to write all this, so 2a minus 1, and this is all equal to 0. Okay, don't let that 0 freak you out. We can work with it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and simplify this now. So distribute just like last time. So we have 5a minus 3 times 2a is going to give me negative 6a. Negative 3 times negative 1, oh, sorry about that, is positive 3. So plus 3, and then this is all equal to 0. So again, just like last time, I'm going to combine like terms, or my similar terms, which are these two here. So 5a minus 6a is negative 1a. And of course, you don't have to write the 1, but I'm going to go ahead and write it just in case you need it. Bring everything else down. Okay, I'm going to move my 3. So minus 3 gets rid of it right here for me. So I have negative 1a is equal to 0 minus 3 is just, well, negative 3. And because I want to get my a by itself, I'm going to divide by that negative 1, which gets rid of it for me. So a is equal to negative 3 divided by negative 1 is positive 3. So here is my a. Okay. Now we're on step number 3, which is to find the other variable. So I'm going to scroll up and just kind of look at the ones I have. I have these from my original. I'm going to go ahead. I'll use the second one just for something different. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it right here. So 5a minus 3b is equal to 0. Okay, so I'm going to plug in my a into this a, which will give me 5 times 3 minus 3b equal to 0. So I'm trying to figure out what b is now. Well, 5 times 3 is 15. Bring down that 3b. And now this might confuse a few of you, but remember that we're trying to find b, so that means that I have to get b by itself. So in this case, I would move my 15. So I could do minus 15 here and minus 15 here, which will get rid of it on this side. I bring everything else down, so minus 3b equals 0 minus 15. Well, that's just minus 15. Okay. And now I have negative 3b equals negative 15. So to get rid of the negative 3, I divide because that's multiplication. So I do the opposite, which is division. This will give me a 1, so I can cross it out. So I have b is equal to negative 15 divided by negative 3 is positive 5. So my solution for this one, okay, is going to be at a equals 3 and b equals 5. When we use different letters, we write this in alphabetical order. So my answer here would be 3, comma, 5. And this is the ordered pair where these two lines will cross. Okay? And that's it. That's how you solve these. So just really quick review. Step number 1, you solve for a variable, whether it be x, y, a, b, whatever the letters are in the system. Step number 2, we substitute the expression. So whatever you got equal to, so like in this one, the negative x plus 8, we substitute it back into the other equation. Okay? If you want to add that here, the other equation. Not necessary, but just extra notes. When we have that answer, we do step number 3, which is to find the other value and write the solution. That's it. Hopefully you understood.